Hey everybody, welcome back to Winding Down Chronicles and this month's lowdown in Laos for July 2026. So every month I pull together a roundup of the headlines that actually I think matter to foreigners. Short, digestible excerpts covering everything from inflation, fuel prices, to tourism and various news. I try to stay out of the politics. That's not a very good place to go here, if you know what I mean. So consider this your launching pad. And we are on a stormy night. You might hear the thunder in the background. I hope I can finish this before the rains come are too heavy. So let's get right into the numbers. So Laos inflation for July cooled down a little bit. It's down at 7.4%, coming down from the highs of 12% and 9% back in April and May. The Bank of Laos said that they're going to try to implement measures to try and stabilize the kip against other currencies, and it is one of the more volatile in countries that I'm familiar with. But for expats living on foreign currency like US dollar and Thai baht, for the most part low inflation plus a stabilized kip means prices at the local markets will stop feeling like a moving target and a little more predictable. So speaking of fuel, so the government adjustments in late June, July saw a slide lower in diesel prices as well as gasoline. Supply chains remained stable compared to where they were back in April and May and across major cities compared to previous panic shortages. So from my point of view, I haven't seen any closed gas stations. I only once had to be waved on because they didn't have any diesel. Petrol and diesel were dropping toward the middle of the month, and they were at around 25,000 to 26,000 kip per liter. That was just about 2 weeks ago, which is the lowest since February, March, when prices were right around 22,000, 23,000 per liter. However, recently they skyrocketed up again by 30%, and now they're at 32, 33,000 kip per liter, with almost $6 per gallon. The prices seem to be moving right in line with the instability in Iran, rather than lagging as they used to. I held off on filling my large SUV tank, which is coming to low levels. I've been waiting for the prices to drop. I should have filled my tank when I saw gas 25,000 kip per liter just 2 weeks ago, but I thought maybe it would come down a little bit. Now my tank is almost running on fumes and the prices are climbing. So I may just have to put enough in to keep the thing from stalling out on me, with the hopes that prices drop again soon and this stupid war finally comes to an end. I just topped up my motorbike tank, 5 liters, 173,000 kip, but at least it's not up at 50,000 yet. Thank God for that. So cost of living, despite easing headline inflation, international financial bodies like the World Bank, they project price levels for basic goods to remain elevated through 2026, which I'm assuming is because of the war, and higher import tax. Laos is landlocked and almost everything is imported. So for me, the local Lao produce still seems reasonable. I've not really noticed much change, even with the imported steaks that I buy twice a month at the local supermarket. So I've not noticed a great deal of change in them, and that's where I would think you would see it. So, and I think the steaks are reasonable costs anyway, even if they have inflated. If you have a habit of reaching out for imported or Western or Thai goods, you're going to pay an expat tax, and it's to go to Thailand to get it. So for the overall economy and growth in general, government reported a solid 5% GDP growth for the first half of 2026. This is largely propped up by a rebound in services across cross-border trade and even tourism. Numbers look pretty decent from what I'm seeing, and mainly because tourists are spending money again and they're coming in. But I'd say everyday businesses are barely keeping the lights on. I often see in group discussions people talk about coming to make business, and long-term expats are telling them, hey, don't come here to make money. there's not a lot of flexible income here. So I see it constantly on these chats. Somebody thinks they're going to come and strike it rich with some great idea, and they don't. I'm shocked with how many businesses I see that are still operating when I lived here over 10, 15 years ago. So here's a bit of an international news. You might have seen this, especially if you're Australian. In mid-July 2026, the local Laos authorities issued an official statement regarding the late 2024 tragic deaths of 6 foreign tourists from methanol poisoning. The authorities stated they could not determine criminal homicide liability due to lack of autopsies. And this sparked a strong diplomatic frustration from Australia and Denmark and the families who were affected by their loved ones dying from this incident. They found that excess methanol levels were confirmed to be in the local Tiger vodka that these tourists were drinking, and legal proceedings are now underway against the distillery of this vodka. And in addition to that, the hostel staff are also facing charges for potentially tampering with evidence. From my point of view, this is just a crucial warning for travelers to stick to unopened, reputable beer, wine, and other alcohol, and just skip the free house shot bowls at these local parties, especially where the party zones like Phang Bien. I remember when I was in Luang Prabang, it was probably 15 years ago, one of these little kiosks had this concoction, a liquor, that was soaking in this jar full of reptiles. And of course we were young and crazy. We did a shot and it tasted like pure gasoline. So for you partiers and you adventurers, if you need to try it, take a sip. Don't go crazy on it because you're really taking a risk here. So city water issues continue. So Vientiane residents continue to face sporadic water cutoffs, low pressure, and even muddy tap water as the infrastructure upgrades struggle to keep pace with the growing demand and expansion within the country, and despite being in the rainy season. Now, from my point of view, we've had 2 days without water in the past month, despite the rains. So we're still being directly impacted by this serious infrastructure problem. It's very frustrating, but the water company keeps sending us the bill. They're not late with that. It's not a lot of money, but it's still frustrating to pay it when you're not getting the water. We've made some adaptations to the house. We have some large garbage pails in each of the bathrooms and a couple outside. It will help us. It will help sustain us for 1 or 2 days, which it did. Hopefully, when the water does come back, so that's still a process for me to figure out how best to handle this. My wife came up with a way to try and harvest some of the rainwater. It's intensive manual labor, incredibly inefficient. But her resourcefulness kind of sparked my mind to think of a way to try and collect and keep as much of the water as possible. I'll have to talk to our local handyman to come up with some ideas. I have some pictures that I found online. Give us a couple more days of water if necessary. Our biggest issue is we don't have much space in our compound, and I don't want to have the whole compound filled with water jugs. So my mind is working to see what would be the best thing to implement here, to take advantage of all the rain that's coming and to just potentially cover us for a couple of days without water, and even without electricity. No electricity, and we can't run the water pumps. Even if there's water in the water tank, we can't really get it, or we have to go in through the top. So anyway, I got to come up with something, and I'm going to try and make it efficient and at least aesthetically pleasing to look at as much as possible. If any of you out there have any ideas of what, and you had to do something, let me know. We're not going to do a well. I don't think that makes sense. From what I hear, the wells around here, the well water is extremely muddy, and we just don't have the space for it. So here we come to the blackouts and power cuts. Mid-year heat combined with heavy seasonal storms has caused regional rolling blackouts and transformer overloads across major towns, despite Laos being the battery of the Southeast Asia. I don't know how they're getting that name. The ultimate irony is I found out that Laos actually exports large amounts of hydroelectricity to its neighbors. Yet local neighborhood power grids drop the moment the wind picks up or the wind blows. It's at least once or twice a month that we get a blackout because transformer just blows. It's old infrastructure. My point of view is we've had 2 blackouts for almost 24 hours both times in the past month. And the storms often come when we're sleeping, so we'll wake up sweating in the middle of the night. The other crazy thing is our electric bill has increased 30% in June, and we didn't change our usage even despite the blackout. And in July, despite another 2 24-hour blackouts, our electricity bill is up another 30% on top of the previous month's increase. When I was working, I just kind of, oh yeah, okay, whatever. But when you're looking at this and you have an income coming in, like, holy cow, you can hear the quiet screams of frustration all around the city. I hear people are bitching about this. This is evidence, again, of an antiquated infrastructure that's not been able to keep up with the demand, nor has it been updated. Laos welcomed nearly 2.6 million international tourists in the first 6 months of 2026. I'm really shocked at this. This is driven heavily by the Lao-China Railway and increased regional flight connectivity. So they are opening themselves up more to this tourism. This is great for the local economy, but if you're taking the train to Luang Prabang and Vang Vieng, you need to look into booking your tickets. Second they open, you might face packed station queues. I've not traveled it yet. I know people have. It's a very nice system, I hear. But I plan to do it sometime before the end of the year. Well, this isn't one of the headlines, but I do notice that the BTS bus system around the city, it's pretty regular now. There's not a lot of people using it, although I do see people on it. And when I've driven past them, there might be maybe 5 to 10 people in it at most. But it is running. This will be the 3rd time that they're messing with the dividers in the road. I'm not sure what the problem there is, but speaking of traffic, so traffic authorities acknowledge that roughly 40 to 50% of the capital city traffic signals are out of order. They're either blinking yellow or completely dark due to faulty wiring, power surges, and just old equipment. This is another thing that surprises me how often it occurs and for how long and at major intersections. I just passed through an intersection today and it's notoriously never working. The weird thing is there's almost never a policeman there to direct traffic, despite often seeing them in the small buildings on the corners. But so you basically have to navigate it at your own risk. Just keep your eyes open. One good thing about this is that the Lao are generally not very aggressive drivers, and they don't tend to drive fast. They actually tend to drive on the slow side, from my observations. Not like in Thailand. In Thailand, they fly and very aggressive. That doesn't mean they're impatient though. So you can have lanes that grow wide. There's not an etiquette of give and take. It's basically take in slow motion. Here's a weird thing. Wildlife protection officers raided a local Vientiane establishment and seized illegal protected wild game, including bear meat, frozen pangolin parts. Isn't that what caused COVID? Speaking of Fauci's on trial now, it's about time. I hope they hang him by his testes for what he did. Be careful, tourists. They do have signs when you come into the airport, no tusks and ivory and the typical things you're supposed to steer away from. Stay away from any kind of exotic menu items, because if you get caught, you can have legal penalties to pay for and potentially getting sick. On the medical side, health ministry officials suspended operations at a private medical facility following an investigation into illicit organ trade rings operating across the regional borders. This is a reminder to expats who may want to live here or even just travel. Laos does not have a strong medical infrastructure or options that you do have in Thailand. And this is a major reason why many who live here still prefer to cross the border, even just for basic medical care. I have major medical care for my wife and I'm still not sure where we're going to go if we ever need to use it. We would likely cross the border to Thailand, because I just have not been convinced what's already here is very viable, especially for something serious. You have a lot of clinics you can go to, but for something serious, people still want to end up going to Thailand. This is one that often interests me. It's the scam centers and raids. So police forces continue systemic enforcement raids targeting cyber scam operations and illicit online gambling compounds, particularly in specialized economic zones and border districts, deporting hundreds of nationals. This does show that the government is taking active steps to clean up, and this will benefit long-term safety for legitimate expats and retirees. But from my point of view, I'm amazed at how often this happens on the news. This is a weekly occurrence that these raids are happening, and there was just one yesterday. They arrested 1,000 foreign nationals. And I'm sure it's a reason why I see so many non-Lao people walking in various parts of the city that do not look like tourists. I don't think they're retired or living here or working here. We're in monsoon season, so mid-July rainfall has triggered localized flash flooding. You hear this on the news pretty frequently. Road washouts and rising river levels on low-lying southern and central provinces. So to the tourists, be conscious of where you're traveling to outside of the capital, because some of these places are very vulnerable to flooding during peak monsoon months. And it was just recently that I saw a bus had an accident because of this flooding, and the bus driver wasn't able to see when they drive at night. They could not see that the road was flooded. So that's the lowdown on Laos for July 2026. I hope these quick excerpts give you a picture of what's unfolding in the ground this month. So as always, if you want to follow a filter-free journey of my early retirement, cross-cultural life with a Lao wife, drop some comments below and let me know your thoughts on any of these topics. So until the next time, keep an eye on the numbers, look up, and live the life that you made for them. Sabadi everybody, take care, God bless, take it slow. See you in the next one.